And right now we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick here with Katie Greifeld, taking you through to that closing bell. It's a global simulcast. Carol Massar joins us in the radio studio. Tim Stenovec is off today. Emily Graffeo in his place. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, television, radio, our partnership with YouTube. Another volatile day in U.S. equity markets, Carol Massar, with stocks at one point in the session taking a huge plunge lower, but clawing back some of those losses into the close.
Yeah, a sensitivity, right, in terms of maybe some of the stories that cross and the headlines out there. Having said that, despite a lower trade on the S&P 500 overall, the index average, you go inside, Emily keeps pointing this out, you've got more than 370 names to the upside. So investors are still out there buying.
Yeah, investors mostly today buying those consumer staples, Home Depot, J&J. Those were really the companies leading the indexes, and the Dow as well. We'll talk about the Dow for a second. It was in the green.
Well, that's good. Again, a price-weighted index, so
You're going to make Katie angry.
only so much to glean there. It is an interesting exercise in index math, though, because even though you do have more gainers than losers, you are seeing some strong buying in certain pockets of this market. The fact that you have big tech and the chipmakers really taking it on the chin, you're not going to be able to get that broad-based gain at the index level. The S&P 500, it's off its session lows, but still looks like it's going to finish up in the red here.
Absolutely here. And we talk about some of the big gainers on the day. A lot of them, of course, not the kinds that can really move the market. Names like JM Smucker and Pool Corp. Though I do want to point out that FedEx Freight now on a 4-day run. Nevertheless, we get the closing bells in New York, and it is going to be a red for the benchmark S&P 500. At one point, it was down more than 1% on the day. It's going to close lower by just about 20 points, or roughly about 1/4 of a percentage point or so. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is going to finish in the green, higher by about 0.2%. And we should point out that so too is the Dow Transports, up about 1.3%. The Nasdaq Composite and Nasdaq 100 each down by about 1% on the day, and the Russell 2000 posting a gain of about 12 points, or 0.4%.
All right, so squeezing out a gain there. Hey, going back to the S&P 500, as we said earlier, 371 names, Katie, to the upside within that index, 131 to the downside, one unchanged.
Similar dynamic when you take a look at the sector breakdown. I think the circle is particularly interesting today, as you can see, because big tech, that is the big slice of red on your screen, falling about 1.8% as a sector, and that's really responsible for the loss that we saw today. Energy down too as well, but a much smaller constituent of just the sector makeup. In terms of what actually led us higher today, some of the sectors that got us there: real estate higher by 2% as a sector, materials, healthcare, industrials. Overall, 9 sectors in the green, Carol, 2 in the red.
All right, guys, so let's get to some of the individual gainers. We keep talking about these consumer staples stocks. SJM, JM Smucker.
Yeah, Uncrustables.
I find
Jam.
I had one this morning, actually.
Did you really?
Yeah, I love Uncrustables.
It's for the little one. Having said that, this one is your number one gainer in the S&P 500, so it's up almost 11% here in the session. And you did see the company's organic sales and adjusted EPS beat expectations for the fourth quarter. The company also said it expects the board to maintain the current dividend policy, which is to return approximately 40 to 45% of its annual adjusted, sorry, I got stuff popping up on my screen. Kind of hate when that happens. To maintain the current dividend policy, so returning 40 to 45% of its annual adjusted earnings per share to shareholders, reflecting dividend growth consistent with future earnings. It also plans to lower some coffee prices next year as the cost comes down. So Yahoo on that one. The company expecting net sales to decline next year between 3 and 4% when it reduces those prices as it passes through lower costs on green coffee to consumers. So thank you so much, JM Smucker, for that one. Hey, let's go on to some M&A activity today. We're talking about Nuvalent, that ticker NUVL. That one certainly soaring in today's session, up almost 40% in the trade. This is after GSK agreed to buy the company for $10.6 billion. So they're basically getting a U.S. biotech company that's developing treatments for lung cancer as part of GSK's efforts to rebuild its oncology franchise. So GSK paying $124 a share for Nuvalent. That's a 40% premium over the company's closing share on Monday. So pretty much investors bidding up the stock price makes sense to that 40% premium. premium. So we're just kind of keeping a watch on that. We do see that some of the big tech, not big tech, but big pharmaceutical, picking up some of those biotech names to build out their pipeline. And then I think did Tim talk about this one yesterday? Mission Produce. That went up more than 7% in today's session, rallying the most in 18 months. It's an avocado supplier, and it said fruit supply has normalized and per unit margins are recovering after an unusually high avocado supply environment during the second quarter. And the company also reported revenue for the second quarter that exceeded expectations. So hoo-ha when it comes to avocado. It is a small market cap company, just under $1 billion.
All right, Carol, do you want some chips?
I do.
With your avocado?
Nicely done.
We're talking about the chip trade, but not tortilla chips. We're talking about semiconductors. Big sell-off in tech names today. We actually saw a little bit of a rebound, at least in NVIDIA. The stock was down as much as 4.5% today, but it did pair those losses, still finishing the day in the red. Just part of a broader sell-off for the tech-heavy names here. The Nasdaq 100 down, and this was the second time counting Friday that we've seen a big tech sell-off here, with chipmakers leading the decline. Another chipmaker that fell was Marvell Technology. This is another semiconductor name. It's been a wild ride for this stock. It was actually up 9.6% yesterday as investors got excited that it's going to be joining the S&P 500. Today, though, it's sold off, perhaps on some profit taking after that rally yesterday, and then also just on that broader trade of investors exiting chip stocks today. And then finally, SailPoint. This is another tech name, but this is a software company. They reported earnings showing stronger than expected revenue. The full year forecast was raised on key metrics, but overall may not have been robust enough to extend recent strength in the stock. This stock is up nearly 70% off an April low, but it's down about 7.6% today.
All right, let's take a quick look at yields. They were actually down, and it kind of gets to the big back and forth that we continue to see in all the cross-asset markets here. Basically about 3 to 4 basis points across the curve, and a lot of that, of course, Katie, was tied to the drop that we saw today in crude prices, down basically about 3% for both WTI and Brent crude. Brent crude settling just below $92 a barrel.
Well, I do have some breaking news in the form of Cracker Barrel earnings crossing the wire right now. Cracker Barrel boosting its full-year revenue forecast, beating estimates here. They see full-year revenue between $3.27 billion to $3.3 billion. The estimate had been for $3.24 billion to $3.27 billion. So a beat there. Third quarter adjusted EPS coming in at 29 cents. There had been an estimated loss per share of 47 cents. So a lot of good news here for Cracker Barrel, and you can see that reflected in shares right now, moving solidly higher after hours. Cracker Barrel has been through a lot when it comes to their share performance. Remember, they had that big logo controversy last summer, but for 2026, making a little bit of a comeback.
Yeah, interesting, too, to see some of the commentary here about the relative strength of the consumer. And we'll be interested to see whether what we get out of these restaurant companies is a broader read on the state of things. I do want to just point out, too, as we were talking about that, the city CFO speaking at a conference, also saying that the U.S. economy and consumers have shown resilience. All right. Well, speaking of resilience, can we talk about the Knicks? I assume the reason why Tim Stenovic's not here is he's nursing himself in a non-alcoholic beer this morning because of the loss last night. But somebody's not losing, and that is actually the owner of the New York Knicks, Jim Dolan. And I'm just going to read the headline. This is not my opinion, but it says Knicks boost fortune of New York City's most hated owner by $450 million. It's no secret. A lot of people have issues with Jim Dolan, but the stock of Madison Square Garden sports up more than 40% on a year-to-date basis, partly because of the Knicks winning streak, but also the idea, too, there's been a lot of talk that he might actually going to separate these out into two separate companies. Remember, MSGS owns both the Knicks and the Rangers. The idea is he wants the Knicks to be their own separate stock, and the Rangers, the New York Rangers, the hockey team, will be their own as well.
There's something in this story for everyone. The Knicks, of course, the performance there, the potential for a potential, spin-off. We know that has been hot when it comes to the stock performance.
If there's any year to do it, isn't this it?
This is
Strike
it.
by the iron side.
And Dolan himself, you mentioned $450 million added to his net worth.
You know how many hats he can buy with that?
His net worth is now $1.9 billion, according to the Billionaires Index of Bloomberg. So there you go, a lot of hats for Jim Dolan.
All right, good stuff. Good year for him, right?
Yeah.
And we'll see what
Emily,
happens.
do you have any thoughts on this?
on how many hats
Are you a
You could
Knicks
buy-
fan? Did you watch the game?
Totally. I did watch the game.
Okay.
Yes.
I went to bed at halftime.
Where were you? How many seats over from Derek Jeter were you?
Yeah, just like 6 seats over.
Yeah, whatever.